Let me double check that this thing is live.
Yeah, I think we're live.
Cool. Alrighty, well, let's get things started here. So, welcome to the
Yeah.
first episode of MidCast, a podcast in which we talk about nothing but the mid lane in League of Legends. My name is Josiah, known in the online gaming community as Foozle Bamboozle, and my co-host is Jake, known by his summoner name Varivniv. No clue how to pronounce that. I'm
Yeah,
one.
we got it.
Okay, I'm one of the founders of CEAL, Casual Esports Amateur League, and a member of this league's tribunal. I've been in several less cool leagues before this, and basically have been playing the game since season 2. Jake, who are you, and why are you here?
I'm a mid laner. I play for the Nerdy Pandas. I'm in the league. I started playing season 4, late season 4. I kind of started around the same time of like World Season 4. So when Samsung White won.
Hmm.
Um, Other than that, yeah, my name's Jake. I'm from Canada. That's pretty much it for me. I mean,
What's your favorite champion? What's your favorite
my
champion?
favorite champion. I mean, it changes all the time. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, I used to be a Fizz one trick for like 3 years,
Nice.
but um, lately it changes. Like I feel like always my go-to champion. Like I feel like honestly, like when I'm like 40 and I come back and play League of Legends, like I'll probably play Zed. Like that's probably my favorite champion all time.
Nice.
But like right now, my favorite champion is probably Kiana. Just
Nice.
the new one is yeah, she's sick.
Now, mine is Diana. She's probably been my main champion ever since I started maining mid,
Seriously.
and she's actually starting to come back now. And we may
Yes.
get to talking about that a little bit later, but she's been C tier for most
Well,
of
I just want to say one
her
thing.
career.
First of all, I've never played Diana ever in my life, so I should probably get on that. And
Yeah, you
second of all,
should.
she was just when I went to Detroit when I went to the
Yep.
third place match, she was played.
Yeah.
Um, Power of Evil played her.
Yep.
They lost,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
crazy. I was like, holy shit! Did you actually just lock Diana?
Yeah. You can see how bad she is when behind. Becomes kind of like
Yeah,
a suicide mid laner. But when
for
ahead
sure.
in solo queue, so you can often get ahead in solo queue, she's actually really good. Did you play any roles, Jake, before you played mid?
Yeah, so like my first champ ever was Annie. So I guess it kind of leads into our patch notes, but
Yeah.
first champ ever I mained was Annie. And then I switched the group I played with had pretty much all the roles filled, like my group of friends.
Mm-hmm.
So mid lane was taken. So I played AD carry and I played Corki, if you remember when
Oh
Corki
yeah,
used to be played in the bot lane.
Leona Corky,
So
unstoppable.
season 4, season 5, if you guys remember when like C9 won what was it? It was IEM San Jose, and Sneaky got the pentakill on Corki. As soon as I
Yep.
seen that, I was like, okay, I'm playing Corki. Like that
Yeah.
was like gonna be my new champion. So
Yep.
still a C9 fan from back in the day, but yeah, pretty much that's pretty much. I would play AD carry for a bit, but pretty
Yeah.
much it was always mid lane.
Yeah. Was Fizz your first champion in mid lane?
Yeah, so actually I came into Fizz pretty late. This was 2015 Worlds, and I watched. Like usually, the champions I play are inspired by pro players.
Yeah. Sure. Sure.
So
Sure.
in 2015, I watched Westdoor from AHQ. He's a Fizz main,
Mm-hmm.
and he played against Faker, and he solo killed Faker with a E flash prediction on the
Yep.
Kassadin,
Yep.
and solo killed him under
Remember that play?
tower. And after I seen that, I was like, okay, I'm only playing Fizz now.
Yeah.
That's all I care about. So yeah, that's how I came about Fizz, and I played him for a long time. So
Nice.
up until probably like I said 3 years, but it was more like 2.5. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Nice. What's the highest rank you've ever achieved?
right now is the highest rank I've ever achieved. I'm
It
plat
was
one.
gold 4? Plat 1. Okay. All right.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I barely got diamond in the last 3 seasons. I think I hit D4 one time. Not this season
Really
when D4 is the lowest rank, but I hit D4.
nice.
Um, and couldn't get any higher because you went from gaining 20 LP a game to gaining like 12 LP a game. So
Yep, that's what
that's
that
the
account is screwed.
yeah,
Time to delete
yep,
new account at
yep,
that point.
exactly. Alrighty, well, cool. Now that we've done pretty much completely comprehensive introductions,
Yeah.
want to talk a little bit about what we want to do with this podcast. So, or if you want to call it a podcast, whatever, live stream, show, whatever it'll be.
Hmm.
Well, for starters, we like mid lane. I think it's cool, and we want to talk about it as much as possible. We're also hoping this will be somewhat educational for mid laners, at least those in the lower division who can learn from myself, who's a diamond player, and Jake, who's a gold or plat player. Um, our plan for now is to do one 30-minute episode per week, usually either on Wednesdays or Thursdays or whenever we have free time. As far as specific agenda goes, we're hoping to split up like different topics for different days. We're hoping to cover things like mid lane changes on the new patch when they come out, mid lane meta, like what those overall changes and trends in the meta, some specific champion breakdowns. So, like, say we 1 week we want to pick a champion and talk about it. Like, okay, let's break down Syndra. She's been really good for a while. Let's to give some tips on how to play her, things you want to do, why you pick her, what matchups are good and bad, what your builds are going to be like, things like that. Occasionally we'll do a big in-depth champion breakdown like that. Also, one of Jake's suggestions talking about pro play and seeing what based on since his champion pool is inspired a lot by pro play, definitely going to be really helpful to talk about what the actually good people at this game are playing and why. So, and obviously a lot more that we have yet to think about. So that's what we want to cover basically in this show. And so this is our first episode. So that's why we spent like 10 minutes on the introduction. But
Yeah.
let's hop right into patch. So we just
Okay.
had 9:18 kickoff. It was announced on Tuesday, dropped, I believe, either this morning or last night. Some big changes, a couple of big changes, and then some small changes to the mid lane. So probably not
Why
going to
don't
cover any of the other roles, but mid lane, just
yeah.
going to talk about some of those big things here.
Sure. So why don't I cover the first part and then you can
Yeah.
grab. First off, we're talking about Aatrox. I mean, I've played him mid. He's not usually played as a mid laner.
Hmm.
If you guys remember, I'm a Cloud9 fan, so they just lost Game 5, Aatrox mid Niski. Thank you
Yeah,
very
they
much.
did.
So
Yeah, they did.
yeah. So
To the
right now
tune.
Aatrox is yeah, okay. Well, Game 5, by the way. But Aatrox is right now gutted. Like, don't pick him any roles. Like, he's terrible. He's absolutely gutted. If you the healing reduction or the heals change and the Q damage to minions, it's completely garbage. But honestly, I just kind of wanted to briefly touch on that because usually Aatrox isn't played mid. But let's talk about the Akali changes right now.
Yeah, speaking
Our
of
cooldown
gutted.
in yeah, speaking of gutted, straight up, I'm a big Akali player too. So our cooldown increased early. R1 stun removed. That's insane huge. People don't think it's that huge, but it is that huge because it makes a big difference in engaging as Akali with Zonias, etc.
Yeah, there was a
Um,
cool Akali combo you could do, or some of the better people to set up your shuriken toss. You would R1, you'd do your first cast of the R, and that short stun would give you the time to jump back and hit him with the shuriken, so you'd have a guaranteed
exactly,
second dash to set up
exactly,
your R2. But
exactly.
yeah, so that's big
Yeah,
that that
even
mini
if
stun
they
is coming.
flash, they can. Even if they flash, you still have the shuriken on, so they flash away. Boom, you still go in, and by the time you hit going on the shuriken, your R2 is ready. So if you have Gunblade Ignite, Q, and Auto, usually the second part of your R is going to finish them off if it's a
Yeah,
squishy champion.
yeah.
So now that stun's gone, also the damage is decreased
Hmm.
from 255 starting to 195, and second 450 to 420. So, and then it's the same at the last rank. And the cooldown also is increased by 40 seconds early, which is pretty significant. Um, when you remove a mechanic from a champion, um, it's always really tricky. And you really don't know how you're, going to play out. Pretty much, in my opinion, right now, Akali is still really good into melee matchups, still, because just the Q harass with the
Hmm.
autos, I do play a lot. It's still broken.
It's easy
You
to
pick it
proc,
into like, yeah,
electrocute that way at
electrocute,
melees.
exactly. Yeah. So against things like Aurelia, against Fizz, against Zed, against things melee, even Diana too. You know what I mean? Like things like that. I think it'll still be good because you can still harass, but into range now that just like all of her like she has for the mages to get on them, she has to engage with her R. There's no more
Hmm.
stun anymore.
Hmm.
So without the gunblade, she really can't engage with her R because it's low. So
Yeah.
um, pretty much at that point, she's like she's not bad still, but it's just you know what I mean. She's not S tier anymore. In my
Yeah.
opinion, she was S tier. So
Yeah.
um, that's pretty much it for Akali.
Okay.
I haven't even tried her yet, but I will get on that. Give you guys a better review
Yeah. So some champions and base damage nerfs are huge, but nerfs and buffs are huge. Like some champions are in the meta specifically or are strong specifically just because of their base stats. So everybody like memes the, +5 movement speed or +5 armor or the +3 AD that you get the low buffs, but those base damages are really more than people think. And so for a Kali to lose 60 base damage off of her R1 at rank 1, like that's enormous. And especially 40 seconds to the cooldown, which is crazy that she can't roam and spam those on side lanes anymore or have all-in kill threat as much as she did on her mid lane. So
for
yeah,
sure.
rough stuff for Kali. I never
You
played her
wanna
that much, so I'm delighted to
yeah.
see her getting tanked a little bit. But
I played a
yeah,
lot of her, man. Yeah. If you want to cover Annie, go ahead.
oh yeah. So Annie, not much to talk about here. Her E was changed. So if you guys play Annie, her E used to give damage reduction when you'd pop it. Most people, really didn't care about the damage reduction. It was more about charging up your stun by repeated spell casts. But the E is changed now so that the damage reduction is less. Instead of giving 16 at rank 1 and 40 at rank 5, you now start at 10% damage reduction and you go up to 22. The thing that they did add, though, is that Annie now gains 25%, and this is scaling per level, decaying bonus movement speed. So they're giving Annie some tools to engage by herself. So it's pretty cool. She now can run at people a little bit faster to get off of her combo. So basically, this patch is enabling Annie to better do Annie things. Will it bump her from C, B, or T all the way to A and S? Probably not. But it's kind of cool that they're focusing in on her identity and making Annie be better at Annie. So,
I'm excited to try this
yeah,
actually,
yeah, okay,
because I used to play Annie when I first started playing the game, so every now and then she's not fun, she's brain dead, but you know what I mean. Um, it's interesting, and one thing I did remember trying when Predator first came out, I played a lot of Predator Annie, and I don't know how much 25% movement speed is, but if it can help her just get onto a target, that way she doesn't have to Predator or Flash, that's a huge buff to Annie. So
yeah.
this could be really good at low elo for shoving the wave and roaming bot lane, top lane, popping your
Mhm.
E. If they flash, you just catch up to them, pop the stun. Hopefully, the other laner can catch up, and you guys can. I think that in low elo, if you guys are in silver to goldish, it's probably still really good.
Yeah,
So we'll see.
yeah, and I think you still take Predator with Annie. The 1.5% movement speed is not going to, or the 1.5 second duration on the movement speed is not going to make up for the increased speed you get with Predator. Predator's still going to be really
True.
good, but
Yeah,
it's kind of like
imagine it
a
together, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of like a quick surprise movement speed thing. Probably useful for lane or that extra burst if you need to run somebody down. But
Or getting out of ganks too.
yeah,
You know what I
oh
mean?
yeah,
You gank, pop the E, and you just book it for the 1.5 seconds.
yeah,
Could be good if
yeah,
you're not using it aggressively to charge your stun. So
yeah.
nice. Yeah.
Well, that's about it for Annie. Let's jump down to Aurelion Sol. He did get a tiny buff, and this was kind of a follow-up to a rework that he got in 917. They basically wanted to decrease his late game power, or I'm sorry, increase his late game power and decrease his early game power. It's kind of like a wonky change, kind of underwhelming
Yeah.
to Aurelion Sol. He's just a really unique and weird champion to pick up, and I don't think either
I
the
don't play him.
rework, yeah, nor do I. I don't
Yeah.
think either the rework or this small buff, they increased his base health from 510 to 575, which is actually kind of big, but it doesn't really make Aurelion Sol viable or less of a weird pick that would be hard to learn. I still think he's not gonna be super appealing to anybody looking to pick up a good champ. He's the times when Aurelion Sol is good it's because he's so good at doing his things that you really want to pick him for that identity, like really early level 2, 3 roams, getting your team, snowballing them ahead. And he has to be really good at that in order to be viable in the meta. And when he's not like an outstanding champion at those things, like they took away his ability to auto shove in the rework. You can't continually expand your stars. So he's less
Yeah.
good at being Aurelion Sol, and when that happens, um, the costs kind of outweigh the benefits, and so it's kind
So
of an
yeah.
underwhelming changes to Sol, in my
So
opinion.
like there's a guy in our league, he's D4 that his name is Mecha Asol. He was a Asol one or main, I guess you could say. He's not a one trick, he plays other things.
Yeah.
I played against him the other day. I played against his Ari. Yeah, I probably won't let him get Asol because when you play against an Asol that knows what they're doing, it's really scary.
Hmm.
And it doesn't matter how like you get a counter pick. Like in my opinion, every time I play like someone locks Asol in solo queue, I'll pick like Zed or Fizz. Um, but it's just scary lately because the new Akali feels like a burst mage, and it feels like a lot different than the roaming champion that he used to be. I honestly don't know. I don't know what to say about Asol, honestly, because it's like it's so weird because you'll play against either someone that has no idea what they're doing on the champion because no one plays him, or you're playing against a one trick. And at that point, it's like it's so confusing of what to do. Honestly,
Hmm.
I really lack experience against
Yeah.
Asol. I don't really know what to say. All I know is that health is a little bit more health is obviously good. So, you
Yeah.
know, yeah, just straight buffs.
Yeah. One champion I really do want to talk about that did get buffed
Let's
is
talk about them.
Echo. Echo
Yep.
is actually starting to become viable for pro play. I'm wondering if people that or the right developers wanted to were like, hey, sitting in their den, their cave, thinking to themselves, what would be an exciting champion for to break out in pro play? And so they continually started to buff Echo, and patch 9.16, they actually upped the damage of his phase dive and lowered the cooldown of his chrono break. So this was a couple patches ago. They actually lowered his arc cooldown at level 16
At later ranks,
at later
yeah,
ranks,
yeah.
at level
It's
16
placebo. Yeah.
from 70 to 50. And so 50 seconds is crazy. When you think about it, 40% CDR bumps that down to 30. So Echo has access to his ult every 30 seconds, which is
Could be
actually
twice
kind
in
of,
a fight. Could
yeah,
be twice in a fight.
kind of
Yeah.
insane. Um, and so jumping forward to this patch, 9.18, they actually buffed his W. So the mana cost went down from 50 at rank 1 to 30, and then at
Stun went
rank
up.
5, 70 to 50. Yeah, and then like you mentioned, the stun duration went from 1.75 seconds flat to 2.25. So now a couple one of the things you'll see good Echo players do in the mid lane is they'll often step into that side brush and then throw up a parallel convergence in the mid lanes to try and get frequent stuns that catch the opponent off guard. Some of the bad Echoes will try and proc their W in vision of the opponent, and it'll be very telegraphed. But the
Yeah.
better ones will step into that side brush, and they were kind of discouraged from doing it on a frequent basis because 50 mana at rank 1 is kind of a lot to be. You can't really spam that, in lane for a surprise attack. But now that it's costing 30 at rank 1, it's pretty cheap so that you can actually do that a lot more often. So, um, continuous buffs to Echo are actually putting him up. And most people have him A and S tier now. In fact, Faker played him before even this most recent buff, and so I think we're going to see him in Worlds, which I'm really excited about. He can handle himself well into the melee matchups. He's a decent counter to the long range matchups, and with Syndra rising in priority and competence, Echo becomes a not only a good counter to Syndra, but a viable champion in and of himself. So,
It's exactly what I was about to say. The
yeah.
Syndra is huge right now. The Syndra is so OP a champion. So Riot has when Riot over buffs a champion like Syndra, because
Mhm.
straight up, let's just be honest, she's over buffed right now. She's stupid.
Mhm.
So they have to buff Echo because it's the number one counter to
Yeah.
Syndra, and which is awesome. That will refrain teams at Worlds from blind picking Syndra. If you blind pick Syndra without banning Echo, you're screwed
Yeah.
because and you know what? Echo does good into a lot of other stuff. But obviously, you guys remember like the Echo Jensen C9 against
Yeah.
Syndra Bjergsen, like,
Mhm.
or whatever it is, like the meme. But um, Echo does slap Syndra straight up in lane. So
Yeah,
exciting.
if you guys remember last Worlds, Jizuke picked Echo to counter um, I think it was RNG's mid laner, Xiaohu's Syndra. Yes, Jizuke picked Echo into Xiaohu's Syndra, and it actually almost got Vitality out of the groups because of how hard he dominated that matchup. So
Yeah,
the Syndra
yeah,
Echo matchup is something that's been seen pretty frequently in the last few years, and something that I think will be relevant going into this Worlds, which we're excited
for
about.
sure,
So
for sure.
moving on from Echo, the last buff, and it was kind of a small one, was to Zoe. So Jake, you're a good Zoe. Just tell us about that
Yeah,
champion.
I do put. Let me find her. Okay, so and actually, their passive is I don't know if it's okay, so the passive damage, so I believe that this is her W passive, right? Or
Um, how does Zoe work? So no, this is just her straight up. Does she have a regular passive? Yeah, she
oh,
does.
the next basic attack. Okay, so it's the empowered auto. Okay, so this is actually good. Okay. So with Zoe, like I build Lich Bane on Zoe almost every game.
Hmm.
The thing with Zoe is that she's super underrated for is tower pushing. She nukes towers. If you get a solo kill, you push your thing in, you can get plates so easily on Zoe, and
Yeah,
before you know it, you're up 320 gold on your laner and up a kill just because you pushed the plates and you have a sheen on Zoe. If you're weaving in your autos correctly on the wave and things like that, it's actually insane. Um, yeah, so what's the actual change? So uh just her early damage. So 10 to 16, 12 to 20,
yeah.
16 to 24. So just up about maybe like 6 damage. But after maybe 4 or 5 autos, that makes a significant difference because it means another technically 4 autos or
Yeah,
whatever, right?
and
So
remember how often you can proc Zoe's passive. You can actually proc it twice every paddle star. So when you shoot it
yeah,
back, you get to get an extra empowered auto, and then shoot it forward empowered auto. Every time you cast your R, you get an empowered auto. Even your bubble, you get an empowered auto. So you could, if you're like Jake was mentioning, if you're whacking a turret and you go off of a full rotation of spells, you can get 4 extra empowered autos, which is up to 24 damage at level 1. But I mean,
each
it goes
auto.
goes up to 8 damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, eight damage. In the middle. So it stacks up with how often Zoe can chain her spells together. So again, we talked about base stats being um, perceived normally as pretty weak, but in this case, you can actually make use of that passive buff quite a few times in
Another
Zoe's
thing
spell
is too
rotations.
is if she lands bubble and does like our auto, like with a Lich Bane,
Hmm.
it already does insane damage.
Yeah,
And like I don't know if the empowered like will significantly increase that with the passive, but Zoe was already a good champion. She's
hmm
already insane. So honestly, I don't even understand why Riot buffed her. Like
yeah.
why?
It's kind of giving her more ways to do damage without landing skill shots, which is kind of like the complaint about her all along, is that
Hmm.
even if you missed your paddle star, you still had so much stuff shooting out of your champion that did so much damage. And so
Yeah.
this is a little bit more of that. She does more damage without having to land her Q, which is kind of insane to think about. So
Yep. So they guess they want to see Zoe at Worlds. Me too. So I don't
yeah,
care.
yeah,
No one else does though.
yeah, right. I
Yeah.
think they did a poll as to on Reddit as to like what was the champion that people most wanted deleted from League. Obviously Yasuo won, but I think Zoe was a close second to be removed from
A
League.
lot of
So
people hate
yeah,
Zoe. It's like
give me
build cleanse or QSS or die. It's
yep,
your choice.
pretty
Yeah.
much. Okay, so that's about all for the mid laners that were actually changed in this patch specifically. I want to touch on a couple champions that have been rising in prominence. Um, Even though they didn't get nerfed this patch, they will actually are pretty decent. So we already talked a lot about Syndra. She was not buffed in 9.18, but it was in 9.16 that she got one of her biggest buffs. Um, Her Q actually was changed to do 25% bonus damage against champions, and her E damage was buffed by 15 base. So if you think about it, 25% bonus damage against champions is actually really insane. Given her ability to poke at long range early on, like it just means it's a no-brainer for Syndra to try and harass the opponent with Q's early level. And even before that, they lowered the mana cost on the Q. So this is crazy how much more powerful Syndra's early game has become. Now that she can just walk up, throw Q's for free without losing much mana, and 25% bonus damage against champions. So Jake mentioned Syndra overbuffed. I agree. She's actually really insane right now, which makes buffing your counter picks all the more crucial. So
Yeah,
Syndra's
technically
crazy.
not blind pickable, but
Yeah.
insane into the right matchup. But she does have counters that smash her. Said,
Hmm.
um, the Echo.
Yeah.
These assassins that can Fizz destroys
Yeah.
Syndra.
Yeah.
So there are counter picks to it. But you know what? Even things into popular champions right now, like even Silas, and even though Silas can take her ultimate, Syndra's still good into Silas.
Yeah.
So um, like all these power picks that are coming out, um, Syndra usually just does good into them.
Yeah.
He's not blind picked.
Yeah. Silas's engage is pretty telegraphed, so that's why you usually see a Syndra being able to ward off the Silas and keep him at distance because every time he does his first dash, he no longer gets a shield from it, and then you kind of know that the second part of the E is coming, and so Syndra can just get ready with that scatter of the week. So, yeah, she's a very strong champion. Another one I want to talk about is Gallio. Um, you obviously remember the Gallio nerfs about 5 or 6 patches ago, in which they actually removed his ability to hold down his W, his taunt, and flash at the same time, which just nerfed him like crazy. He was just literally gone. Wasn't even a
Got it.
champion anymore.
Yeah.
He was being played primarily as a support at that time, so the utility of being able to do that kind of combo was essential to being able to play support Gallio. But and then since I was taken away, nobody even touched Gallio for quite a few weeks, but he's actually gotten some damage buffs. Let's take a look at not this most recent patch, but 9.15, 3 patches ago, he got the cooldown on his passive where he slams the ground. Got the cooldown lowered on that so he can do that more often, and the damage on his Justice Punch actually got buffed by a little bit. So his base damages are starting to increase. They're starting to give him a little bit of that power back. And then 917, just last patch, he got buffed again. Let me check and remember what that was. His Winds of War cooldown actually got lowered. So now he can cast his Q and hit his passive where he slams the ground more often. His W even, they buffed the damage on that too. So every single spell of his, except for his ult, they either up the base stats or lower the cooldown on. So just considering Gallio and his ability to build AP in the mid lane, that got a lot better. So you'll start to see Gallio come back as like a AP mage. He'll still likely build Aftershock, I think. Um,
Yeah.
but he's actually starting to come back and be somewhat of a champion again, so to speak.
Yeah, I
So,
need to give him a go. I did see though that Froggen was playing him,
mhm.
and having success, which is kind of crazy. But I'm sure that without the W flash mechanic, Galio is like, still. I mean, with the damage, it's hard to say. But you know what?
Yeah,
If he gets overbuffed on damage, it can compensate for the W flash. But like obviously the W flash is everything. That's
yeah,
why he was played as
yeah,
support.
hmm,
Only reason he was played as support was for the W flash
yep,
because no one can react to it unless you have cleanse. You know what I mean?
yeah,
If you're a Galio and you're in the bot lane and you hold down your W and the opposing laner knows you have flash, you almost have to flash if you don't have
yeah,
cleanse or you're dead.
yeah,
So that's why they removed it because it's kind of just stupid if you think about it. Because like you could like the mind games
hmm,
and it's too broken to have that kind of threat on a champion where the enemy laner has to flash regardless of whether you flash or not because it's not reactable. So, there's other things they could do to him, like increase the range of his E dash, which I think like would probably just be the better option rather than buffing his damage as like
hmm,
a champion. That way he can just always hit someone no matter what to guarantee the W unless
yeah,
they flash. So but anyway, Riot decided to go another way and make him more of a mage. So I will give him
yeah,
some games this week, guys, and I will tell you what my
yeah.
opinion is on him.
It seems quite unreliable now that you aren't able to set yourself up easily for CC, but the damage numbers are still there and a potential. But it just seems like less reliable than before, but still could come back in the meta. Jake,
Sure.
any champions you want to talk about that have been on the rise lately, or we round out our
Um,
champion discussion with that?
hmm. I feel like with the buffs at least, I mean, guys, like I would really give Echo a go. Like even if you've never played him, like
Hmm.
Echo is for sure.
He's
And then
awesome.
another one that, yeah, and it probably might take you 20 games to get the hang of him. Maybe just go watch. There's like a Chinese Echo player. His name's like, I
Jaliban.
forget it. Yeah, you know him. Okay.
Jaliban, yeah.
Yeah, he's absolutely nuts. Just go watch VODs of him. Like he's incredible. Like watching him, he's 70% win rate challenger smurfing. Like it's actually nuts.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, just maybe give Echo a go. And then other than that, if I had to like say anything, I mean, right now in the meta, with Akali getting nerfed, I think that Kiana's priority is gonna go up.
Hmm.
Um, just because like Kiana's like actually just blind pick people,
Hmm.
unless someone plays something like LeBlanc to counter it or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, I just think, in my opinion, right now, Kiana's my most fun champion I'm playing right now, and I just feel like no matter what I'm playing against, doesn't matter. I literally played against a Heimerdinger the other day, and I'm sitting under my turret, but it doesn't matter. Like eventually, when you group, you just win the team fights if you get a big ulti.
Hmm.
So it's in the same sense as like Rumble, where the ulti is game changing. So if
Yeah.
you get a good ultimate, you can just win. It's kind of like Oriana, but the AD version. Like I don't really
Yeah.
know how to explain it. Um, but yeah, if I had to give advice, or of like what I like right now,
Hmm.
she did have some nerfs in the last patch with her ultimate cooldown. Just run the ultimate hunter in the page, the domination page.
Hmm.
Get that reduced a bit after some kills. You're going Tiamat, then you're going pretty much full CVR after you're going lethality item, and then you're going cleaver. That's going to bring you to at least 30% if you're running transcended second, or I don't, it doesn't really matter. But at least you're going to have some CDR to get that ultimate up for every fight.
Yeah.
I just think it's too broken, and
Yeah.
if you guys give it some practice, it'll be really good. So yeah,
Yeah. For me, my pick of the patch, obviously, like he said, Echo. It's one of my favorites, so that would be my go-to. Echo's pretty blind pickable now. Not a lot of bad matchups that can punish him. Ari's also good. A lot more basic, but she just has. You still have those multiple different ways to play her as far as your build goes. You can play her more utility, full damage with electrocute, and a lot of versatility. Malzahar's pretty good for a basic mage. He's not like insanely good right now, but he's about as good as it gets for a blind pickable mage. Doesn't have a whole lot of rough matchups either. So those are some of my decent picks to recommend based on this new patch. We were planning to cover pro play and talk about some of the mid laners, but we are literally out of time. So I have to end the cast here. We will definitely get to that next week because I want to talk about Griffin and SKT. That series, we'll
sure,
talk about some of the
yeah,
mid laners that were played there because there's some really interesting ones. So but for now, we got to get game underway. Jake actually is playing tonight. He's got
I am.
Nerdy Pandas are taking on who's the team that Jake is going to be playing against? Wasted
I don't
Potential.
know.
That's it. I only no, shh, no, you've been researching them. You understand it. The Nerdy Pandas are playing against Wasted Potential tonight, so we got some guys to take you away with the cast here in about half an hour. So I got to let Jake go and prepare with his team. So, anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. I'll be posting the YouTube video up on Casual Esports Amateur League YouTube website, so you guys can access that if you missed the cast. Obviously, give us some suggestions for next time. We kind of got our agendas planned out an episode or two in advance, but obviously, we'd love to address any questions or concerns you guys have. We kind of want this to be a long-term thing, at least definitely longer than the league is
For
going.
sure.
So we'd like to make this something that's helpful and informative and entertaining to you guys. So give us
Also,
feedback.
to one more thing. If anyone wants to be a guest, just send either of us a message. We
Yep.
can consider that for next. If you're a mid laner or whatever, if you guys want to come and talk about mid lane,
Hmm.
send us a message. We can throw you on for next time. And
Yep.
yeah, this is awesome, guys.
Yep.
Thanks for listening in.
If you play Yasuo, you will not be approved to join us on our cast. Just gonna get that out there. But we may consider liking you as a human being, but
Straight up.
that's still up in the air. So, anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll peace out
See
for
you
now.
guys.
See you next time.